Well, hello, good morning, afternoon, evening, night, whatever time it is in your part of this hemisphere that you find yourself where you are seeing our beautiful faces and hearing our voice. Welcome to Unstoppable Lionesses. And I'm excited because we have a power pack show for you tonight. And I got my lioness, Dr. Shine, with me and we are going to talk about the power of your roar. You see my new lion behind me. If you could see the whole thing, you would see the top of her says the power of your roar.
Wow.
Seriously. This global climate that we find ourselves in right now is interesting. It is really, really interesting, especially from a female perspective.
Mhm.
There's so much going on. But you know what? One thing that we know for sure, number one, is that God is still on the throne. Number two is that he created his daughters in his image and in his likeness, and he gave us a voice for a reason.
That's right. That's
So,
right.
Dr. Shine, what's going on with you, and how are you using your voice in this hour?
Well, you know what? Let me tell you something that is so ironic about this topic today. The power of our roar. What I'm realizing that sometimes your roar could be in your silence
Mm,
because we have seasons sometimes where it's about being still
mhm,
and sometimes not having something to say in that
mhm,
season and that time is just as powerful
mhm.
as when you go into seasons where you're at the forefront of everything and you have something to say and something to input. And so, knowing when is important during these times, right?
Mhm.
When something needs your energy and needs your voice, and when something needs your peace, your
Yes,
silence. And
yes,
sometimes silence speaks volumes,
absolutely.
especially if people are used to you
Mhm,
having something to say about
mhm,
everything.
mhm.
As we grow older, we grow wiser as we should. And we learn that the power of our voice, and we don't want it diminished by overusing it.
Yeah.
It's kind of like the lion in the jungle, right? When
Mhm.
the lion shows up in the jungle, everybody, and the lion just don't go around every day. "Rawr, rawr, rawr." It
Nope.
just doesn't. Because if it did, it would diminish the real power that lion has. But when
Mhm,
that lion shows up and roars, everything around him comes to attention.
mhm, mhm.
And I think that that's the season that women, we have to know when we're in that season, because all of us aren't in that season at the same time.
Right.
I feel like I'm in that season right now. And being in that season, like I said, is just as powerful of knowing when you're there as it is knowing when you're not.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I was sharing last Friday and even yesterday on my morning lives about the weight of our words.
Hmm.
The weight of our words and the fact that we need to understand that our words have power and value. And because of that, we cannot just throw them out there at any given point in time. We cannot just be saying something just to be saying it,
Hmm.
you know? And that
Hmm.
goes right along with what you're saying. Sometimes you are just be quiet. Just
Hmm.
be quiet.
Hmm.
When the lion roars, it paralyzes everything around it because
Yeah.
that roar has a weight. And like you just said, he doesn't just go around roaring for no reason. And even
Hmm.
with the lioness, like her roar is specific.
That's right. That's
It's
right.
specific. It'll call her sisters.
Hmm.
It'll protect her cubs.
Hmm.
But again, she doesn't just roar to be roaring.
Mm-mm. Mm-mm.
And so we need to pick and choose how we use the power of our words.
That's right.
You know,
Especially in this season, because the word tells us that not to cast pearls among
pearls
swine,
before swine.
right? And so sometimes you have to know your audience. You have to know. I'm even in this season, um, Dr. Corlette, that I don't even want to. I'm turning down speaking engagements because it's not time. I'm in a different season, right? And in that season, a lot of times God is preparing you for something. He's shifting. He's changing whatever it was. It's getting ready to be something different, and He needs that time. Um, Sometimes we allow ourselves, especially when we're ministers and speakers and motivational speakers, we're constantly speaking, giving out.
Right.
But then there's seasons where we have to be poured into, and we have to be restored, and we have to, and we have to know when we need that.
Mm. That is so important. That is so important because we pour out all the time. And if we get depleted, we have nothing to draw from.
Nothing. And then you add the point that as strong as we are, we're lionesses and we have all these things, we're still women, and there's a certain emotional piece that goes with being a woman. So
Yes.
you have the emotional drains and the connections and all the things that, and so it's all right to preserve your roar. It's okay. It's okay. Somebody say, "What you think?" You know what? I haven't really thought about it.
Absolutely.
I'm
Absolutely.
I'm not sure. I'll come back to me, and it's okay because that's powerful.
Mm-hmm.
And people don't realize that there is so much power in silence sometimes.
Yeah.
But then when it's time to open your mouth, when God begin to put you in rooms and put you in places and put you on platforms,
Mm-hmm.
then you got to, when God has given you a unique opportunity to
Mm-hmm.
speak truth to power,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
because our words can't be wasted. You know, I have a friend that talks. She's like a wordsmith. She talk, but when she's always finished at the end of a sentence, a phrase, a paragraph, I'm like, so what you really saying? Sound like a bunch of words to me.
Okay, like wah, wah,
I mean,
wah, wah,
right?
wah, wah, wah.
And so that I'm saying that we're in a season where we can't. Our words have to be so. Our conversations. I talked about on the prayer line. I'm like, we have to even be careful the conversations just from a social standpoint that we're engaging in, the things that we're allowing to pull on our energy, the things we're allowing to pull on our gifts, our mental space, our energy. We have to be so protective of that in a season. First of all, in a time where social media and everybody has opinion and everybody got something to say and everybody got their 15 minutes, to be able to say, I'll pass. There's so much power in that.
There is. There is. And just to add to what you're saying, we've got to be like the sons of Issachar. We've
Ah.
got to know what season we are. We've got to be
Mhm.
able to discern. It's like
Mhm.
I find myself in this season of my life. There are so many platforms and so many opportunities that God has presented to me.
Mhm.
But even in that, I have to be strategic because so is God.
That's
He
right.
said that if you open your mouth, I will fill it.
Mhm.
But he's very strategic in what he says, how he says it, and when he says it. And we've got to learn to walk right in that same vein, in that same place of strategy
That's
when we're
right.
going forth. And that strategy aligns itself with the season that we find ourselves in. You said something a little while ago that, about God preparing you. We spend a lot of time on the backside of the mountain,
That's
and we
right.
don't always understand why. But if you go back and you look at Moses, He
Mm-hmm.
spent 40 years on the backside of the mountain, and 40 years prior to that being educated.
Educate. That's right. That's right.
Okay, so he was educated for 4 years. Then he was on the backside of the mountain learning how to herd the sheep,
That's right.
how to deal with them, how to be silent. See, as in like the heir of Pharaoh, he had authority and he had power and he could use it. On the backside of the mountain, he was subjected to Jethro, his father-in-law, and he learned how to be silent.
Mm-hmm.
And so when God released him to be over the children of Israel, he knew how to navigate both
Mm-hmm.
places, both
Mm-hmm.
spaces. And
Mm-hmm.
that's what you're saying. We've got to do that. We've got to learn how to navigate both spaces.
Because in our silence is where we get to learn about ourselves. It is where we become self-aware of our strengths, of our weaknesses, of the things we need. You have to have seasons where you take a break. Even in this is like the military, right?
Mhm,
They have a thing where they call it battle fatigue.
mhm,
And so they have to rotate the troops
mhm.
because you can't just stay on the front line day in and day out all the time. It just won't gonna work. And so sometimes you have to know when is your season. You don't, because we fight and we're women and we're girl power and this and that, and then you're tired and you're frustrated and you don't know why, is because you need to come off the front line and you need to learn how to rest. And not only rest, you have to learn how to rest in God. You know how to need to learn how to get in that secret place, in that place where you can be vulnerable, where you can be real, and where your voice can be strengthened, where it can be you can start reimagining yourself, reimagining your gifts, reimagining your purpose. But we do that in that silent, private time that we allow to get up under God and just say, whew, okay, let me take a beat. I know all this is going on in the world, and I could talk about this, and I could do this, I could start a podcast, I could do this, I could do this, I could write a book, I could do this. And sometimes all of that is good, but sometimes nothing is good.
Mm.
And nobody ever told us that. And that's what I want to tell ladies tonight is that it's okay to have nothing going on sometimes, but just trying to do self care and self reevaluation. And so when you get back out there, it makes it that your roar has now become more powerful.
Yes. That is so good. That is so good. I was listening to you and hearing also within my spirit that there are different assignments that
Hmm.
call for a different type of roar.
Mm. Yeah.
Even in spiritual warfare, in intercession, and when you are praying in your heavenly language, God will give you different assignments, and
Hmm.
there's a different language and a different aggressiveness and a different sometimes that language is just praise. It's just praise, and there's warfare in that. And
Yes.
other times there is like you can feel like you are that warrior and you
Hmm.
are battling and you are tearing down and you know it, you feel it, you sense it as you're doing it. And then there's just that, you're just like, that's all you got. It's just,
Yep. I like those
mm,
moments, especially when people expect you to always have something. So you're like, no, I'm good. I'm in my soft girl
mhm.
era. I'm
I'm
trying to get
enjoying my femininity.
right. I'm enjoying my femininity. I'm enjoying it, and and ladies, it's okay because nobody ever gave us permission to be okay with not having a lot going on and not doing 50 things and not being a multitasker, not doing this. Nobody ever told us that it was okay to when somebody say what you want to do and you say nothing. I mean, It's okay.
It's waiting to exhale. Just
And listen, because you ever notice, like, before you, like, if you're gonna go off on somebody, you always take a deep breath, right? You always gotta say, okay, here goes. Well, that's the same breath that's needed to get your roar up. Because what you're doing is you're taking a breath because it's part of your stamina. It's part, like, okay, I'm finna go in on this. And that is what we have
mm,
to do for our roar to be, because we just don't want a loud roar. We want a purposeful roar. We want, when we walk, we want our roar to be, uh-oh, oh yeah. And it's kind of like kids. You know how it is raising kids, right? Your kids hear your voice so much because it just doesn't work. So somebody else can tell your kid the exact same thing that you've been telling them 100 times over, and they be like, "Oh, okay," light bulb go off, because they become immune to our voice and our
uh-huh,
roar and all of that. And so that's what happened when people become immune to your roar, and so your
mm,
roar is just like, "Oh, there she go again." And we never want to be that, because now it starts messing with our effectiveness.
mhm.
And so it's okay to take seasons off. We don't have to always have something to say and participate in everything all the time. People need
Exactly.
to miss people need to miss us.
I like that. I
They need
like
to
that.
miss that purr and that roar and that whole thing. They need to miss it. They need to look for it, and something's
Mhm,
missing. You want to
mhm,
be that thing that is missing.
mhm. The same way the Lord says that as the deer panteth over the water
Mm,
brook, the way we go after him, you know, and that there can be those silent seasons in the Lord. And it's not that you've done anything wrong, but it draws you closer and closer to him, closer and closer to him. I'm like this, and I said this yesterday. We want to be like E.F. Hutton.
hmm.
When we get ready to speak, people should stop and take notice. They should like want to hear what we have to say. When you find a bully or somebody that is constantly mouthing off and constantly going off and whatever, after a while, like you just said, it's just like, yeah, okay, here we go again.
There we go.
And it has no power and no weight whatsoever, because the moment they've opened their mouth, you have shut them down in your head.
You
I
know,
don't even hear you.
I saw Mufasa. Did you see Mufasa?
Yes, I did. I loved it.
I just saw it, and one of the things that stood out to me is that Mufasa became Mufasa. One of okay, one of the biggest reasons he was who he was in that legend is because of the lioness. He hung out with the lioness. Remember his brother who
Poured
ended up.
into him. She
Right.
poured
They
into
taught him
him.
things
Yes.
that, so the father wanted the son, which ended up being Scar, to hang out with
Scar.
him, but all he did was sleep all day. Well, the women, they were the hunters and the gatherers. They did all of this, and she was teaching him, and that's how he knew to tell him about how the girls smelled the area and the smells and this and that, and because that is what we are. Real lioness is, we are king makers. And,
Yes.
and that is why our voice is so important. And that is why we have to know, because at the essence and the foundation of who we are, we make kings.
Mhm, mhm,
That's what we
mhm.
do.
And across generations, we enhance the kingship of our mates,
Yes, yes,
and we teach our cubs, our little
yes.
boys, how to become kings. I know that it is said over and over and over again that it takes a man to raise a man,
Um,
and I understand the concept of that. But it takes what that woman is pouring into that young man also. It takes that nurturing. It takes that quiet education that she gives him for him to become the man that he is created to be.
and I agree, because when you really think about it, even when we look at Mufasa, right? it was it was the mother who taught Mufasa about, it was her teaching that made him be able to relate to the woman,
Yep.
to the
Exactly.
lioness. It was her teaching. The men can teach men how to be men. You can teach them how to hunt. You can teach them how to job. But when it comes to relatability to women, men need women for that. And they do. And so that is why I love Mufasa, because it showed that dynamic even in the animal kingdom. And it's so true for us. Our voices make a
Mhm.
difference. It makes a difference to anybody, not just our cubs, our kids, but any kid or child or person that God has entrusted
Yeah.
in our space. When the Bible tells us to, when Genesis, where the Lord said, um, multiply,
Be fruitful,
be for
multiply.
multiply. It wasn't just about having babies. It was multiplying ourselves in other people, continuing the word and multiplying and multiplying and multiplying it. And so we have that ability. You know what I'm saying? That what Mufasa wasn't even her son,
Mm-mm.
her biological son.
But she took him into her heart.
And she was able to multiply herself inside of
Mhm.
him. And
Mhm.
then everything that she taught him, he then went and multiplied it. And
Mhm.
it's going to go on. And so you don't have to have a child to multiply, a biological child to multiply yourself. It's given away. It's giving what God has given you and sharing it and giving it and giving it. And so our voices are so important, especially in this season. Our voices, I mean, me and you talked about this a lot, even when Vice President Harris was running, and how we both really felt very strongly about the shift that has. It is not something that's about to happen. It's already has
Sorry, happened.
happened.
Mhm. Mhm.
That God is making with women, and as it relates to the world systems, politics, and church, and everything you name it, that
Mhm.
God is shifting and women is coming to the forefront. And we have to be ready. We have to be prepared. We
Mhm.
have to have our voices ready, because when that door opens and that opportunity comes, I mean, we have to go in. We can't go in with excuses or anything. We have to go in and take it by force.
Yes. He has ushered in a whole new dynamic where his daughters are concerned,
Hmm.
and people are missing it. It had nothing to do with whether she won or lost.
No.
It ushered in a new dynamic.
And even just the ideal and the possibility that it could be. I mean, I was just watching some show and called uh, One Day One or something like that. I don't know.
Uh-huh.
But and they had
When
Angela
she was
Bassett.
deaf.
No, Angela Bassett played the president of the United States.
Oh, I haven't seen that.
Yes, what I'm saying is it's starting to even be depicted and foreshadowed.
Mhm.
You know what I'm saying? That
Mhm.
this thing is coming, and this was not the season for it or the time. But
Oh, but it's
rest
coming.
assured,
It's
rest
coming.
assured, it's
Even
coming.
Joshua Giles spoke about that, about the woman that's going to be president. And this was before Kamala ran,
Mhm.
but that God was ushering in a woman as president of these United States.
Mhm.
It's coming. The prophetic can sense it, you
Mhm.
know? You can
Mhm.
sense it. And like I said, it's a whole new dynamic because the woman that God will elevate in that position, whoever she may be, she will hear his voice.
She will hear his voice. Yes, she will. Yes, she will. Yes, she will. And that is, women are, and that's the beauty of us. That's the beauty of women. That is our superpower. We are innately created to be subservient in the way we were made, and that is why people always be like churches are filled with women, because women you usually never have a problem allowing God to be the head of her life.
You know what, Dr. Shine? We tap into the intimacy.
Yes, we do. Oh my God.
That's the
Yes, we
difference.
do.
That's the difference.
That's the difference. That's the difference.
It's that those intimate moments. We
Mhm.
are so wired and having a womb where we can take that intimacy within us, and it's not a weakness. It's not something that we even have to fight to do. It's part of who we are. It's like in our fiber,
It's our
you know?
DNA. It's part of our
Yes.
DNA,
We
and
were
it's
created for that.
we're
We were
created for
created
it.
for that.
And so that's why we don't have to do all this extra stuff. We don't have to do all. w- It is my hope and my prayer that women begin to understand and get back to understanding the true nature in which how we were created, and fall back in love with ourselves, um, and the uniqueness of us. I mean, everybody wants to look alike. Everybody wants the same hair, the same body, the same skin color. And I'm saying there that is no good for our children to
No.
see women like that. It's I don't it just doesn't. There has to be a remnant of women that love themselves, love God, and can show forth God's goodness through, you know what? Beauty comes in so many ways. Everybody's beautiful. I have a campaign called that. Everybody's beautiful. And there is something beautiful indeed about each and every one of us that, and it saddens me that that's just not where we are right now. We have these young girls. I mean, they're starting to change how they look so early, and not happy with how they look. They're too fat, they're too skinny, they're too this and they're too that. And I'm like, what happened? And that is why those of us who know our voices have to be used. We have some real work to do.
Yeah. Yeah. And we
Real
have to
work to
pour
do.
into these young ladies that are growing up.
It's
I
the
started a
yes.
campaign a couple of months ago called Unhip and
Mhm.
Unstoppable. Unhip but anointed. And it meant that you're unhip because you're not trying to fit in. You're not trying to be one of the cool girls. You're not trying to be the cover model. You're uniquely beautiful in who God created you to be. God said that you were fearfully and wonderfully made. He
Mhm.
called you unique, peculiar people.
Mhm. Mhm.
Okay? He did not create you to fit in. He created you to stand out. He said in his word that you don't take a bushel or a light and put it on a mountain and hide it under a bushel.
That's right.
You create that light so that light can shine.
That's
Your
right.
uniqueness is your light. Your
That's
uniqueness is what God gave you so that you could stand out and be a glow. Like that light behind you, there's a glow behind you through your
yes.
door, your window. You're
Look,
supposed to
I'm
glow.
going to the light right now.
Okay? All right. You're supposed to glow. But listen,
That's right. That's right.
light stands out in darkness. It does not fit in. When light steps into the room, darkness dissipates.
Like
So yeah, like
that.
that light just came on. It's not dark anymore. Now
The
it's
light
bright.
walks in, and there
There
you
you
go.
go. Just like that.
Just
Just
like
like
that.
that. And
Yes.
that's how we were created to shine, not
That's
to
right.
fit in. We were never meant to be Stepford wives. We were never meant to be the
No.
same as the next one. No, because each one of us has our own uniqueness that we bring to the table.
That's right. That's right. And you have to understand that we're all uniquely made, uniquely, and which also uniquely qualifies us. It's our differences that is where our strength is. It's not the things that make us, it's the differences, because where you're weak, I'm strong.
Exactly.
And so that's what make us need each other.
Hmm. Hmm.
And that's another thing. The lioness, I love their sisterhood.
They
I
protect
love it.
one another. They look after one another. If one eats, everybody eats. And just what you even was saying about Mufasa, it's not just about my cub and nobody else's. They take care of each other's cubs.
Exactly, exactly. It's your tribe, it's your community. And that's now more so what we're getting back to, what our and this is why our voice, our roar is so important, because we're trying to represent our community now, right?
Mhm.
It's not just about me. It's
Mhm.
about me and all of the other women that God has entrusted. There every season, and that this is why we have to be very careful when we start looking at seasons, reasons, and lifetime, right? Because there are seasons God will assign you people, and then you have to know when that season is up.
Mhm.
You it and
Mhm.
I've been going through a lot of those type seasons, right? And because we get emotionally attached to people, places, and things, and it don't have nothing to do with God, because sometimes He send things in our life to for purpose, and we get attached. We do whatever we do. We do what we do. But and then when there's a tearing away or a separation, then we got to go through all of that, right? But when you start understanding seasons, reasons, and lifetime, you understand that most of your life is really about you're on an assignment.
Mhm.
And the people that God allows in your life, that come into your life, sometimes it's for good, sometimes it's for bad, but it's all working together. And
Right.
whatever it is, you figure it out, you get to it, and you keep it
Mhm.
moving.
Mhm. Mhm.
Because for as many people that lives we have already touched, we've already encountered, there are tons of thousands still waiting.
And depending on,
Yes,
we forget that we were created on purpose,
that's right.
for a purpose.
That's right.
So God knew, I know the plans that I
That I
have
have
for
for
you.
you. That's right.
And they're not evil, they're good plans.
Yeah.
Why? Because I created you with an expected end.
Mhm. Mhm.
And within us going through and journeying to that expected end, there are multiple lives that He has connected to us.
Yep. Yep.
To us. And if we don't walk in our uniqueness, then we're cheating those that He connected to us because they need the uniqueness
You,
of who you are.
your authentic self,
Yes. Unapologetic.
unapologetically. That's right. That's right. And that's why we have to really teach women how to be okay with who they are. That not even like whatever your past is, your mistakes, we're not the sum total of what we've been through. All of that does is just add the sauce. It just make
Girl,
to me it just really qualifies you more, because
it does.
if people, one thing about this generation, they like realness. They, don't be trying to come talk to them about something you don't really know too much about. You ain't been through nothing. You ain't done. You got all. No, they're not interested in that.
They want
That
receipts. That's what they say. They want
listen.
receipts.
Let me tell you something. I told somebody this. I said we're this generation wants realness so much till that's how Donald Trump got to be president. Because as crazy as he is what he is, and that people, right or wrong,
And don't try
people
to
have
hide it.
people have an appreciation for that.
Exactly. He
They
don't try to.
do.
It's like everything he's doing, he told you he was gonna do. I'm like,
Yeah.
why are y'all sitting up here so shocked? I wouldn't
But
have
they
voted
like
for him if
that.
I had known. Did you listen to the words that was coming out of his mouth? He
Yes.
told you exactly what he was gonna do from day one.
That's right. That's right. That's right. And so that's what I'm saying, that authentic, being, trying to help people become comfortable in their skin, become comfortable in your insecurities, do away with them, the things that make you think that you aren't qualified, the things that make you think you aren't perfect, or you're not pretty, or you're not smart enough, finding a way to get rid of all of that, because beneath all of those insecurities is a voice that
Mhm.
somebody needs to hear. And
Mhm.
that's the thing. That's why we need women to come out of all of this. We need to help them, because we have some huge voices that have been muted because of insecurity and self-doubt, and just low self-esteem, and all of those things that the enemy uses, and they're intentional to keep us silenced.
Mhm.
And that's not the kind of silence we want. When we first started this conversation, we talked about the silence that is doing nothing but preparing us and rejuvenating us for the next assignment. But then there's a silence that the enemy superimposes
Mhm.
based on shame or
Mhm.
regrets or
Mhm.
doubt or fear. And that's a silence that is not good for anybody. Only the
That
enemy
is
uses
why.
that.
That is exactly why I released my latest book, Snapshots of My Life.
Mm,
Because if you know what I walked through, when you know my story, you understand the glory. Seriously.
mhm, mhm,
Okay.
mhm,
And I released it for all of those that think that you're disqualified because of your past.
mhm,
All of those that think that because of the different things that life has journeyed you through,
mhm.
you are not worthy to sit in the seat of authority. And I'm here to tell you, when you read the book, it ain't too much out there that you've done that I have not, and I'm still yet worthy, because it's not me, it's God that makes me worthy.
That's right. That's
You
right.
know, and again, when He created you, it was on purpose. And do you not know that that same God that is omnipresent, omnipotent, that is all knowing, all powerful, knew what you were going to walk through before you did it, and still stamped you with His stamp of approval and said, now go be great?
And then he did. You went through all of that. You done made all these crazy decisions, did all this stupid stuff, and he still blessed you, and he still elevated you, and he still put his favor on you, and in spite of it all.
Yes.
And to me, that's the beautiful thing about God, is that you can't even mess it up if you try to. Like it's like, it's kind of like I was prophesied to, and I knew this to be true, that um I was prophesied to many years ago, that when my when my mom was dying, that she negotiated with God, um
Mhm.
and she asked God for some things concerning her children's life, that would he do. And so I was told that the enemy was after me, just like really, really been after me, but because of the covenant that God made with my
Mhm.
mom, that he couldn't
Mhm.
touch me.
Mm. That's
And
powerful.
and and I even look at my brothers who've, have had substance abuse and all of just the crazy things in our lives and we've gone through. And I'm like, because of the covenant, this is how awesome God is, that he made with her. We can't even mess that up. Like, it don't even have anything to do with it. Doesn't matter how good we are or how bad we are. The mere fact that he promised her,
Yeah.
we're living in that.
Yeah.
Now,
Yeah.
for me, that makes me more want to be more like God. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
That's the effect that it has on me, because
Mhm.
I know I'm operating under this grace and under this covenant that protects me, that covers me, is that I feel like I owe God even more
Mhm.
because of it. But that's something that I know to be true. But how many of all, I think most of us had praying grandmothers and mothers. And some of those prayers we are living out. And like I said, and all of our crap, we couldn't even mess it up if we tried. Because God made a promise. And what he said, when he said it, he said it.
Yeah.
Now, we could slow it down. Things can take a little longer because, we want to keep messing around and playing. But that's okay. God is patient.
He even said that in his word in Deuteronomy. He said, I have given you the power to obtain wealth
That's right.
because of my covenant
My
that
covenant.
I made with your
Come
forefathers.
on now. That's
Because
the
of my
word.
covenant. That's the word.
The word.
That's the word.
And
You
that
know,
and that's part of understanding who we are, right? So you don't think that, God is this genie body, good things happen, good things don't, up and down. No. When you have to really come to understand who you are, right? And our forefathers, which means our grandmother, our mother, the
right,
relationships
right,
that they
right.
had with God, all of that plays a part in where me and you are at this
Mhm,
day.
mhm,
All of that plays a part. Once again, we get back to the lioness and her community and all the things that make her who she is.
mhm, mhm,
And all of those little pieces come together. Her tribe, her girlfriend tribe, her where she comes from, her children, all
right.
of these, her king. You know what I'm
Mhm,
saying?
mhm,
All of that, all of those little parts come together to give her whole picture.
mhm.
And if any of those things are off, she's off.
Yeah, yeah.
We have to be balanced. We have to be balanced. And being a balanced woman is a self-aware woman. It's a
Oh,
woman who knows
absolutely.
where she's off, what she needs to get
Mhm,
rid of, when she needs to
mhm,
stop, when she needs to go, when she needs to
mhm.
talk, when she needs to be quiet. That is that's how you become so self-aware of knowing who you are. And that's why sometimes we got to be quiet and go spend time with God so he can show us us. And
and and finding that balance in you are comfortable in either one of those stages.
that's right. Either one. And find, you know what? Because I'm just as good in my out in front season as I am behind the scenes season. And the problem with me is that I'm starting to like behind the scenes, right? And so when it's time to get back in front, I struggle with it
Uh-huh.
because it's calmer back here. It's quiet and you ain't messing with nobody, ain't nobody messing with you. But God always he always calling me to the rah rah.
Because that's who he created you to be.
Someone asked me about a conversation that, I was, and we'll talk more about this like off camera, but they asked me about have I talked to somebody about how I feel and what I've thought and this is just leading to our roar and our voice. And they asked me why haven't I talked to the person? And I was like, it's not time. It's not
And
time.
God's timing is vital,
Yes.
because if we miss the timing, we'll misstep.
You'll miss everything.
Yeah.
Timing is everything. That's Queen Esther.
Yeah. Sis, you got 45 seconds. Bring it home.
Listen, lionesses, listen, we have the unique ability to show forth just how powerful we are when we roar and when we don't roar, when we hold back our roar, when we just sit back and meditate and focus on ourselves and take a break. It's okay. It's okay to not have an answer. It's okay to not want to do anything. It is okay to want to sit back in some seasons and get poured into. But then there's a time where you got to walk with courage and boldness and do what is necessary, not necessarily what you want to do, but what is needed to be done. And so take those silent times and those quiet moments, rest in God, allow God to pour into you so when you get out there, you can go with the confidence that is necessary, and you know that everything that you do and everything that you're saying is on purpose with purpose.
Amen. I love it. Thank you so much. This is amazing. Tell the lionesses where they can find you.
You guys can find me that I am on Instagram at I am Dr. Shine, and I am on Facebook at Stephania R. Shine.
Amen. Love you much, 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 much. We have to do this more often.
Yes, we do. You know, anytime you call me, I'm here.
Amen. Amen. Love you much. All
Love you
right,
much.
lionesses.